Hey guys, welcome back. So today's lesson, I wanted to teach you how to draw the VV Marvel Mighty figures, both from reference and then eventually from your imagination. So if you're not familiar with VV or Marvel, VV is a digital collectible app. You can grab it from the iOS or the Android store. And Marvel Mighties are essentially it's Marvel characters in a very stylized, cartoony fashion. So they should be pretty simple to draw. But I didn't want to just jump straight into, massive amounts of human anatomy and really complicated stuff. So I think this is a really good starting point. So how do we do this? Again, as I say, first of all, we're going to draw from reference. We're going to establish the design rules. Not that there's necessarily rules in drawing. There's tools, but there's not rules. But there's certain guidelines that we can follow when we're trying to mimic a certain style, or if we're trying to, draw something that is based on nature. Nature has certain loose rules, okay? And this book, what I have in front of me, this is the Masters of Anatomy book. It is essentially it's a massive book that's filled with loads of amazing artists, such as Adam Hughes, Joe Mad, J. Scott Campbell, countless artists. And, you can see that these are all human figures, but these are all drawn in a very different, very stylized way, which makes you wonder, how do you know that these are human figures if they're all different? Like, how can there be so much variation? Well, there are underlying rules to follow. And again, not rules, but guides to follow. So let me grab a measuring device and I can try and illustrate this for you. So this is the ideal proportions. The whole book is actually full of artistic interpretations of ideal proportions. So this is Joe Mad, my favorite artist. If you haven't seen his work, do check it out. Now this is a measuring device. And what I'm trying to illustrate here is that as artists, what we do is we measure in human heads. So that can be head heights or it can be head widths. Typically for ideal proportions, we measure in head heights, but it's not necessarily accurate. So if you have like a heavy set male or female, head heights is not necessarily going to work. The belly button, the navel was going to be lower down on heavy set people. So you'd use head widths, for example, to get more accurate measurements. But for this purpose, for like comic books, things like that, you tend to use head heights. So let's measure out one head, which I've just done. So we have the top of the head here, and we have the bottom of the chin just here. If we go one head height down, these are all the same spacings. Let me just fix this up a little bit. Okay, if we go one head height down, we will have the sternum. If we go down another head height, we have the navel, and another head height, we get the pubic arch. If we take those four heads and we stack them on top of each other, we have the height of the entire human figure, which is 8 heads high. And that's exactly the same for the male, the female. You'll probably find this as well is true for essentially every character in here. Maybe not this character, he's quite a tall, has a very small head. But most of the characters are based on 8 heads high or something like that, maybe 9 heads, but typically it's 8. So I'm going to show you another book now. This is a very famous book for figure drawing artists. It's called Figure Drawing for All It's Worth, and it's by Andrew Loomis. Now this book has just a treasure trove of information on how to design and draw the figure, how to light it, perspective, foreshortening, human anatomy, just so much information, which, I'm not going to go through all of that today. Super complicated. I'm not even going to touch on this very much, I promise. I just want to illustrate that this is how we need to measure our drawings and our designs. So again, ideal proportion male, head units 8. So this is 8 heads high, and it's the same for males and females, 8 heads high. Now we do also have various standards of proportion. So in real life, people aren't necessarily 8 heads high. You'll typically find that they are 7.5 heads high. The ideal male, as we just said, is 8 heads high. In fashion, you'll find that they're 8.5 heads, and then the heroic kind of statue is, 9 heads high. And it's 2 2/3 head widths. Now this is not necessarily accurate for today's standard. This is quite an old book now. The 8 heads idealistic is still relevant, but if you were to take, for example, a comic book drawing and you wanted to draw like a hero, like a Hulk, for example, Hulk I think he's more than 9 heads. I think it's more like 10 or 12. He's definitely not 2 2/3 heads in width. I think it's more like 5. So there is quite a lot of variation nowadays, especially in comic book drawing. But that is essentially one tool that we have, which is measurements. Super important to have correct proportions. This is a book that I featured on the last video. Again, apologize there was no audio on that one, but this is essentially a book and it contains loads of paintings by a master artist called Rubens. Now Rubens' work is full of what we call rhythm. So this is the painting that I was trying to illustrate in the last video. And what I want you to note is the rhythm. And what do I mean by rhythm? Let me just take a piece of paper here and I'll show you what I mean. So rhythm is essentially opposing curves. So you can picture these lines as arrows. And what I do is essentially allow you to control the viewer's eye. Right, so if I want to take you on a little journey, I can make you walk through my design, my painting, my graphic design, my website design, whatever. I can control where your eye goes. And when I want you to stop on something, I just put it straight. And then I can pick it up again. So this is essentially rhythm, and it's helpful to think of it almost as water and how water flows, right? So water comes down, it flows off. The whole form is just kind of liquid. And again, you can control the eye movements and you can make it stop when you want it to stop, and then you can pick it up again, and so on and so forth. You'll find this all over different designs, but you'll especially find it in the Renaissance. So again, Rubens, you can almost enter, this is so well designed, you can almost enter this painting at any point and your natural eye will be kind of led through the painting no matter where you start. So let's say we started at the top here on this horse's head. You have this nice curve that transforms, flows through the body, through the entire painting, comes out to the leg and then eventually out into the horse's leg there. You could start here, do the same thing. There's a myriad of different ways that you could be flowing through this entire painting. It's really, really well designed. See if we find some more examples. So even just in portraits, you'll find that, you've got these nice swooping curves that come and just kind of like guide your eye around the figure. Another amazing example, just here you have this nice rhythm, this flow that comes down, it starts at the deltoid, comes back round through the trapezius muscles into the other deltoid, down through the arm, into the arm of Christ, through the body of Christ, through the leg, and then eventually, out through these arms just here, through this body, and through this very carefully placed arm here. This was done all on purpose, and you can enter this in a myriad of different ways. Beautiful, absolutely, really well designed. This is what you want to see in your figures. So let's crack on and let's pull out the VV app and pull up the model that we're going to be drawing today. As I said, first of all, we're going to draw from reference. So let's not start with Spider-Man. I want to find a character that's standing because, as I said, we measure in human heads. We're not going to get a super accurate measurement if we're doing it with a torso that's all twisted up. So let's try and find this one. Come on. Typically it's not going to work now, is it? Okay, here we go. So let's pick a figure. Let's go for Scott Lang, Ant-Man. And let's try and figure out some of the rules behind this figure. Cool, okay. So first thing we're going to do is measure the head. And we're going to figure out how many heads high is this figure. Well, if we take one head and we stack it on top of another, we can see it's 2 heads high, right? So let's draw 2 circles. We won't do this massive, just do 2 circles here. That's the height of our figure. We're going to start there and stop there. Now we need to figure out, okay, well, where is the center of the body? Where's the pubic arch? So if we know that's 1 head high, we can actually say that from the start here to the end here, it's about halfway. So let's take halfway here and let's just mark it. Cool, so now we have this and we need to decide what kind of shape is this. It's almost like a flower bag shape, right? We need to know how wide it is though. So again, we can use the head width in this case. So if that was the head width from the tip of the pen to where my finger is, it's about halfway. Yeah. So if that's the full length, halfway is this much length. So that's what I'm going to do here. We're going to do a little flower bag almost. The flower bag is actually really typical in animation. So that's going to be the torso. And then for the legs and the arms, well, we know the legs come down to here. So let's just draw a base. And what we're going to do is we're going to draw arrows for the legs. So we need to decide if the arrow is coming towards us or away from us. Okay, so how do we establish that? Okay, let's draw 2 arrows. I'm going to illustrate this for you. How do you know if an arrow is coming towards you or away from you? What you can do is you can put in cross contours like this. Okay, and now I know that that arrow is going away from me. I know that this arrow, by putting the cross contours in, is coming towards me. And we can do the same thing with arms and legs as well. So let's say we had, for example, an arrow going this way, and then we had an arrow going that way. And let's say this with legs, like for example. Well, I know that this can then be a cylinder going this way, and I know that the leg is then going backwards this way. Okay. And then I can just connect these up through the patella. Just like that. So we can do the same thing with this here. So let's draw some arrows for these legs. They're pretty straight. It's a pretty straight model. This one's going back a little bit, and this one's kind of straight down, but a little bit forwards. So we'll just do it like this for now. So this one is towards us a little bit, not much, but a little bit. And this one is backwards, but again, not much, just a little bit. So you can see that this arrow is going backwards. I've exaggerated it a little bit, and this one is coming forwards. Cool, so now let's do the arms, exactly the same thing. And we can see this actually has a cross contour here, so we can see that it is going away from us as it goes down. So it goes down like that. And then it's kind of straight. We can actually turn this model and see it's towards us a little bit. So I'm actually going to exaggerate that a little bit more and say it's like that. Okay, and then the same for the other side. Again, we have this nice indication already that's coming towards us. And then this one is going that way, away from us. Well, it's towards us. Cool. We can know that by this, again, little indication it is coming towards us. If it was going away from us, then it would look like that. But it doesn't, it's like this. Cool. Okay, so what do we need to do now? Well, now let's focus on this face. So we drew 2 round balls for the head heights. This head is not actually round. If it was round, it would go like this. It actually has this little extension just here. So we know that the chin needs to stop there and the head starts there. So we can probably draw this little bit here and then draw a circle for the actual head there. Okay, and then we have this extension. And again, I'm not trying to like make this a pretty drawing right now. I'm just trying to establish some of the ground rules on how we can actually draw this going forwards from our imagination. Okay, I'm just going to draw a circle for the nose for now, maybe 2 circles either side, so essentially this. Okay, now halfway between the chin and the nose is going to be the mouth. We know that because that's kind of just standard when you're drawing human anatomy. So I'm just going to put a little mouth in there. Halfway on this ball, so bottom of the ball, top of the ball, is going to be our brow line. And halfway for that will be the eyes. And we can just put in, if we follow the nose up either side, that's going to take us usually to the corner of the eye, but not in this case. It's actually a little bit off. But then it has a very small nose. I'll put on these 2 extra side bits, but they're quite wide for this character. So let's follow it up. And let's just put in some eyes here anyway. I think they may be too high up, but let's figure out. Again, not trying to do a perfect drawing right now, just trying to establish the rules. Okay. So then we have the eyebrows actually on the brow line here. Okay, and then the hair just here. Now, if we take the eyes, so we're going to establish the ears now. So typically the ears start where the nose would start when you're looking face on. And it usually goes up to the height of the eyes, but in this case, it's kind of halfway down the eye. So it's more like here. Cool. Now the body is actually facing this way, right? The arrow, if I was to draw a center line, it would actually be going this way. So let's fix this body and rotate it a bit. And this would be the side plane just here. Okay. And now if we take the top and the bottom halfway, it's kind of the center point of the chest. So we'll do that. Again, it's not anatomically correct by any means, but it's accurate for this character design. So this is what we're going to do. Okay, so let's add on these legs. Now the legs obviously get wider at the bottom and thinner at the top. We could measure these out to something like the eye or something like that. I'm just going to kind of eyeball it though. I'd say it's going to go like this. And it's got some weight to it at the bottom. Okay, and again, we've established the direction of it before, so we can follow those cross contours. We could change the direction up here, and then where the knee joint is just here, it changes. So it comes towards us, and then maybe it goes away a little bit. Okay, and then the other side, again, straight line more or less, because it's a really simple character design. Bigger at the bottom with a little kick out for the actual boot at the bottom here. Cool. And then we just fill in the arms as well. Again, it's all really simple cylinder shape, so no problems. How are we doing for time? 20 minutes, okay. I'll step it up a little bit. Okay. And again, it comes thicker at the end. So it's thin at the start of the joint, and then it gets thicker. Okay. Kind of a squarish rectangle shape for the hand. We can just put in some fingers like that for now. He only has 3 of them, So we need to make note of that and a thumb. And you can just draw arrows for this as well if you want for the fingers. It's completely up to you. Okay, so 1 finger, 2 fingers, 3 fingers, and a thumb. All right, so that'll probably do for our rules. We do also need to make sure we have, decent rhythm in our figure as well. But that mostly comes from our gesture. We've done a pretty straight on character for this one, so let's change it up now. Let's try a more dynamic character. Let's go for Spider-Man. Spider-Man, I find, is always fairly easy to draw. He doesn't really have facial features, and he has these awesome webbing for cross contours. It's really good for studying the form and using Spider-Man as a teaching tool, essentially. So that's cool. All right. So let's figure it out. Let's say this pose. So we know it was 2 heads high. Let's do this a little larger. 1, 2 heads high. Halfway on the second head is the torso. Let's try and establish these rules. So center line goes this way, and it actually goes back through his whole body, really. So we're going to transition that like that. Okay, so his body's going away. We know that by the wrapping around of these contours. Again, this is why Spider-Man's so awesome to draw, because he has so much information in his character design that makes him easier for us to draw. Not necessarily easy to draw, but easier. All right, so let's draw this little bag, flower bag, whatever it is. Kind of like an egg shape almost, I don't know. Let's go that way. So this arm is coming towards us. We can do an arrow again if you want to. This arm is going back behind. Again, you can do arrows, that's fine. This leg is coming this way, and this leg is going down. This leg is going that way, and then down. So again, this is how powerful these arrows are. Like, I can come back to this drawing in years and I'd still know exactly how to position it and how to draw it. So let's draw the center line. And again, when I'm talking about center lines and things like that and cross contours, what I'm doing is I'm describing a shape. So this is a 2D shape. What I want you to do is imagine an ant that's crawling along, hits the shape, and now he can crawl over the shape and describe it to us. And the more ants or cross contours, whatever you want to call it, that you put on this shape, the more it's going to describe how it looks. And you can come in from different directions as well. Okay, so that's what I mean by that. So, where were we? Let's do this arm here. Actually, let's do the head foot next, because again, the head is not a perfect ball. It comes up a little bit to the actual ball of the head. Try and make it darker. Again, I'm drawing this all in pen so that you can see it. Usually you would do all these lines really light. Okay, so here we go. Okay, center line of the ball. So the ball again is this bit. Off center, just down a bit, is the center point here. So again, if you imagine a ball here, it's kind of nearly at the bottom of that ball actually, isn't it? Okay, I'm just going to do a circle for now, and then we're just going to fill in these eyes. The eyes come, again, if it's the ball, probably halfway up to about here. So it has these nice rhythms. My dog's barking in the background. I don't know if you can hear her, but I apologize. Okay, let's fill in these eyes. And then do the same on this side as well. Okay, and you can kind of just draw around to see where the eye starts and stops. Cool, that'll do for that. He has these cross contours again going around, describing the shape, which is really cool. Really informative as well to describe the shape. And then you can just connect these up. Doesn't have to be perfect. Again, we're still more or less establishing just design rules and making sure we've got them perfect. We can always, tidy up our drawings once we're happy with how the layout is. But the layout is always the most important part. Okay, so we have these shoulders, which actually comes down into a nice V shape. So we know that the deltoids then would be here and here. And then it comes down, how far? I'd say his navel was probably there. So probably about here. Let's just do that. That's cool. Okay, and then the arms, again, we're sweeping them back. You'd notice that they are very thin at the start and they go thicker. So we need to make a note of that. It does have a little bend in the middle here. You can see a slight bend here. I'm exaggerating it a bit. Okay, and then we have the fingers. Again, we can do arrows for the fingers, that's fine. So that one's going that way, that one's going that way. This one's just sitting there. And the thumb is also going away from us. Okay, so let's fill these in quickly. Okay, we'll move on to this leg. So let's put in the cylinder here. And this is, again, really nice exercise of getting used to just drawing in shapes and thinking of forms like simple cylinders, triangles, whatever else. Sometimes it can be more difficult to draw cartoon style. Essentially, like, if you can draw a figure in the Florentine style, which has all of these tools in practice, you can draw anything in any style. But it takes a lot of dedication and a lot of work. Okay, so again, I'm going quite fast now because I'm realizing how long this video is becoming. Hopefully you're getting something out of this though, and it's inspired you to at least pick up a pencil and think about things in maybe in a different way on how you might approach it. Promise you, if you carry on with this, it will change your life. It will change how you think about everything. Okay, so again, we'll do this arm out to a cylinder, thicker at the end, thinner at the start. Okay, we do arrows for the fingers, that's fine. Thumbs going this way, middle finger going this way, pinky going this way. Okay, and then we just connect it up, nice and simple. We have these, again, nice cross contours that help us describe that form. Really beautiful. It makes our life so much easier. Thank you, Spider-Man. Cool. So that is essentially Spider-Man in a very, very rough fashion. We can come in here and we can tidy things up a little bit. We can make sure we've got rhythm in our drawing. Again, this pose has some rhythm. It definitely has law of opposites, which is really cool. So we have this arm coming forwards, this arm going back. That's nice. This leg, sorry, and yeah, it has some rhythm. So how do we then take that into drawing what we want? Again, it's essentially just applying now the same kind of stuff. We know, again, it's 2 heads high. The figure, body, torso is going to be halfway. We'll do it this way, for example. And it's going to be half a head wide. We know that the ball of the head is not the first circle that we drew. In fact, I noticed that I've done these bodies actually way too thick. So they're half heads, but I've been measuring it on the ball, which is not correct. So if that ball should actually be wider, like this, that makes more sense. Side plane. And then, you can do what you want, essentially. If you want an arm to come towards you, draw an arrow towards you. If you want an arm going backwards, draw it away from you. And then just put in the cylinders. Remember, thin at the start, and then it becomes thicker as it gets towards you, or towards the end of the actual hand. And same with this one. Okay, let's put his, let's do almost like a walking pose. Let's put this leg forwards. Okay, so we have this nice cylinder here. And let's bring it back. And then we'll just put, I don't know, a straight for this one. His leg can be straight down. And then all that's left to do is to go in and tidy up your work. Again, we can do Spider-Man hands. So we can do thumb going this way. We can do a finger going this way. And this one going this way, and then this one in the middle. And then just connect it up. Okay, and then the same with this one. You can do whatever you want. You can do the same kind of thing. You could say arrow this way for that finger, maybe arrow this way for that finger, whatever you want. And the middle one can be resting. And thumb coming out here. Cool. And then center line, halfway, eyelids start underneath here. And when I say eyelids for underneath, this is just for this character. I don't think that's the same for this character here. In fact, it's not the same. His eyes are actually kind of like up here somewhere. But, you know how to measure now, you know how to do proportions. So you'll be able to figure it out by yourself. Hopefully that's been helpful. I'm going to leave it there because this is already 34 minutes long. If it's been helpful, please leave a comment.